In the fast-paced world of business, finding a clear path to profitability can be a challenge. Welcome to 0 to 100 with your host, Jared Guy Randolph, seasoned business and finance expert. Tune in for actionable insights and strategies to accelerate your business success.
Hello, Accelerators. Welcome to another episode of 0 to 100, and today I am very excited to welcome David Seidman, who is not only a buddy of mine, he is a top corporate and real estate attorney with the Seidman Law Group. He has represented some awesome clients from large corporations to C-suite executives to some really cool sports-related clients, and he's taken cases all the way to the Supreme Court, and guess what? He's won. Some of the topics that we're going to talk about will be making sure that you have very clear, concise contracts and reviewing some of those older contracts you might still be using to make sure that they are up to date, AI and the law, bringing in or using a paralegal to help reduce your legal fees, especially if you have consistent legal work. And we're going to talk about legal trends that might be impacting you as business owners. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jared Guy Randolph. I am the founder of BoxFi. We are the nation's leading payment consultant, providing business growth solutions through payment processing. And I am excited to share the network that I have built over my 25-year entrepreneurial journey to help you grow your business and become more profitable. Ladies and gentlemen, let's accelerate together. David Seidman, thank you for joining us on 0 to 100.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So before we dive in, I've started by asking a really fun question, and it was actually you who gave me this prompt, and I absolutely love it. What is your saying that you find yourself coaching your clients with, or a mantra or motto that you have about your business consistently?
So, well, first of all, thank you, because I do find it very interesting to hear what other people say to their clients, and Lord only knows how many times I have adopted what someone else has said without footnoting them. So feel free to not footnote me, everybody, if you use this. What I like to say is you can't fight the river. You know, if things are heading in a certain direction, there are many times that's what's happening. And you know what? You could either go with it or you can automatically fight a losing battle. Now, the second part of that is my wife and I enjoy what many people think was a pretty awful movie, and is The Saint, with Elizabeth Shue and Val Kilmer. And there's a scene in the movie where Val Kilmer advises this guy to admit everything. And my wife and I use it professionally as well, is, you know, there are bad facts often, and you can't get around them. So what is the best thing to do? Admit that it's a bad fact, and then do what you can to use it to your advantage. And that happens, and I'm in all walks of life, whether it be dealing with my wife every once in a while, and I say, that's right, I said I'd be home at 9, and it's now 10:30. What am I going to do, lie? No. I admit that's the situation, and then I explain why.
So let's put that in a business context, a bad fact. How can a business owner in a negotiation use that to their benefit?
So I'll use intellectual property as a great example. You know, you may have realized that, oh my God, I never got a trademark. And, you know, but I've been using this logo for 12 years. And then you're asked, well, why in God's name did you never trademark this? Well, you say, the answer to that is, well, you're right. I probably should have registered this with the feds. But you know what, though? I still have common law rights. And it's not too late because it goes back to first date of use. Versus saying, yeah, you're right, I screwed up, and, you know, start acting apologetically about something of that nature. Or if there are certain, say, refunds, whether it be a consumer, whether it be some sort of manufacturing supply agreement that you have to explain what happened. It's like, yeah, you know what? They overordered. And you know what? They are responsible for getting it back to me. Our contract says that they are responsible for the shipping. So yeah, there's all this extra inventory, but it's not as bad as it looks.
So let's kind of stay on that topic a bit,
Yeah.
and you are a seasoned business attorney.
Thank you.
And what I really would like for you to talk about for our audience of business owners and entrepreneurs is some of the pitfalls that you consistently see business owners putting themselves in and how to avoid them.
Well, one phrase that I hear all the time is it's just the boilerplate when they are talking about contracts. It's just the boilerplate is how I make money. It is I draft the boilerplate or I analyze it and tell you this is what's going to get you in the boilerplate. So it drives me crazy when I hear business owners say, don't worry about it. Or, you know what? I just signed it. The price was right. The quantity was right. But the boilerplate, didn't even bother looking at it. Didn't worry about it. To me, that drives me crazy. And I don't understand why business owners, very, very smart business people, make that mistake on a regular basis. So another mistake that is often made that I think, again, you would think is common sense at times, but is not, is, my brother's a divorce attorney, but you know what? I had him look at my lease, right? And
Yeah.
again, intuitively, it makes sense. I have a medical problem. My elbow hurts. I don't call my eye doctor, right? Even if my eye doctor is my brother, I don't call him. That's just how it is. So sometimes they're very, very elemental things like that, where you shake your head, you do your best not to chuckle when you're in a situation where, again, it's already hit the fan and you're trying to figure out why you're in that situation already. And oh my goodness, I wish you called me at the beginning versus now when it's going to cost you a lot.
So what you're basically saying is, as a business owner, you need to make sure that you have the right attorney who has an expertise in the field or the need that you have. So I have a contract attorney. I have a land use attorney. I have a regular real estate attorney. I have trademark attorneys. I have attorneys out the wazoo because everyone has a specialty. And as a business owner, a generalist is not the best thing for you.
Well, it's not necessarily that a generalist is not good for you. It is, number one, you really need to know what that person does. Because I'm a business attorney and I understand real estate and I understand corporate law, whether it be drafting and negotiating contracts, whether it be M&A related work, whether it be certain issues between vendors. I do all of that. And I certainly understand commercial real estate to go back to that very, very well. But I would never do land use work or state and local tax work. I don't do that. Or if you had a pension question, all I could do is commit malpractice by trying to answer an ERISA question. That would just be the dumbest thing I could do. And my malpractice carrier would basically drop me. If I tried answering any question about any pension, that would just be big old mistake. So you need to somehow manage the two, and you need someone who's just going to be honest with you. And it's honest with you in terms of what they do, and sometimes what it would take to figure out what's going on. Sometimes having someone look into it for an hour or two might be better versus someone who's just going to give you an off-the-cuff answer for 5 minutes. Other times, if you want me to read the property tax code for 10 hours to try to think of something, that's not going to happen. And I was once hired to do that. I once had a banker say to me, David, you're a smart guy, and I think you're going to come up with some sort of argument to reduce the value of this building. So I'm going to hire you to read the Illinois property tax code. And guess what? I came up with nothing new whatsoever. It was like money. It was totally money down the toilet. It was a wonderful compliment, right? I felt great being told, yeah, you read it, see what you come up with. But really, what was I going to use the skills I obtained playing Monopoly growing up to come out with some sort of property exemption or some sort of easement or abatement? That just wasn't going to happen.
Right. Well, it's you've referred to it as door law. So when you're a business owner, how do you avoid knock on a door law?
So I remember one example from early in my career. And again, it's common sense. It really, really boils down to common sense. But I once heard a story about a business owner who wanted to save money on the cost of an immigration attorney. So hired an associate within the firm, basically free, right? Had an associate look into what it was going to take to keep his girlfriend in the country. And lo and behold, the associate, who had never done anything in immigration law before, messed up. And he had to wind up marrying his girlfriend. And as the story goes, I was told he ultimately said to the associate after this happened, you know, I can't marry the client every time you screw up. Okay. So I really mean it when I say use common sense. If someone says they can do everything, do not trust them. Just do not.
So I think what's really important for the audience is to understand how, and these are great allegories that you're giving, but understanding how to approach an attorney when they have a need, whether it is a partnership negotiation, a contract negotiation, negotiating terms for services with one of your third-party vendors, how to set the right expectations, but also how to approach the attorney so you're extrapolating the most value and making sure you're controlling your cost at the same time.
Well, I think you have to be upfront and honest with what your concerns are. Upfront, I think you need to say, look, this is not IBM and Exxon negotiating this billion-dollar deal. So tell me really what's it going to take? Give me a rough estimate. I'm not even going to hold you to it initially. Right. Feel free. Say, how many hours do you think this is going to take? It's no different than any other business agreement or business negotiation. I think the first thing you have to do is just ask. Again, I think so much of this is common sense. I really, really do. And in many ways, that's the lesson I want business owners to have and I share all the time. So while the law doesn't always make sense, you have enough sense, because you're a smart person, to ask the right questions, to tell me honestly what is bothering you. Tell me problems that you've had before or you've heard others in the industry have had that concern you. Be forthright and use common sense. It's a lot of stuff your parents told you growing up, or it's any other business relationship. There's no magic. There's really no secret.
And it's also a safe space when you're talking to an attorney. You can cut to the chase. You don't have to do the small talk. You can say, this is what I need. These are what my concerns are. And then come up with a plan to solve that problem.
Yeah. Again, this is what I need. Or this is a contract I use all the time. And so I want you to look at this. And what I think is best, say, look, you read this. Tell me what's in it. And if there's a thought that enters your mind while reading it, share it with me. It doesn't mean I need it done. I want it done. I'm going to pay you to do something else. But you know what? Share your thoughts. That helps.
So how important is it for your attorney to review the contracts that you have in place, whether it's between you and partners, whether it's between you and vendors, and how frequently should it be done? Because some people are working with contracts that could be 10 years old and they just keep recycling the same contract. Well,
certainly when it's your contract that you're sending to others, it's good to have them reviewed periodically, probably at this point, every 2-3 years, because technology changes. There are many people, for example, who probably have nothing in their contracts about AI. And so if you're using a 10-year contract, 10-year-old contract, then there's nothing about the use of AI in the performance that you're engaging in or the other side might be engaging in. There are other times where, again, you use IBM or Exxon as an example, they're going to give you a contract. And you know what you say? Thank you very much. I'm going to sign it. And because, again, you can't fight the river.
Right. It's interesting that you brought up AI and contracts. Let's lean into that a bit.
Sure.
Tell me more about how the business owner should be looking at incorporating language around AI in their contracts? And what does it actually mean? A lot of business owners, me included, I don't even know where to start when it comes to the conversation around contracts, obligations, and AI.
So the first thing is to ask, are you using AI in your performance, especially in a services contract? And vice versa. If you know that you're using it, you should be ready to tell the other side, you know what, I'm using it. Because each state is now coming up with different laws. Departments within each state are coming up with their own regulations. And so you need to just know what the heck is going on. Okay. The second thing I think is actually when someone says that they're using AI, to actually determine whether they're using AI. Because you might be creating a situation where you're creating a headache for yourself that isn't necessary. And while I am certainly not an expert in AI itself, or AI versus machine learning and all these other things, just finding out what the heck it is, again, you might realize, you know what, I don't need to worry about this in any way, shape, or form. The second thing is when it comes to AI and contracts is, a lot of times you kind of want to know whether someone else used AI to create their contract. I've seen a couple where I wind up asking the other science, like, did you just ask ChatGPT to create your license agreement? And lo and behold, that's what they did. And so,
can you tell the difference between an AI generated contract and a contract generated by a seasoned attorney?
Yeah. So that's actually a great question, because in light of AI and in light of so many of the free agreements that one can find online, about 95% of the work is already done if you picked the right form agreement. So really what you're hiring me and so many other people who know what the heck we're doing as attorneys, it's that additional 5%. Where am I going to get sued? The definition of, say, a force majeure, pre-COVID, right? People probably didn't have health or epidemics or pandemics or things like that. But someone who read it and then added something like that in there was in much better shape than someone who did not have that in there. That's the 5%. Or another one is indemnification, where, say, you're a very IP heavy company, you need to make sure that your IP is always protected, that if they disclose something, that you won't be sued because they screwed up, whatever it might be. But that's just another example of a clause where that extra 5% could save you a lot of headache.
Wow. So I'm hiring you to do the 5%. And there's various ways that you can approach hiring a business attorney or whatever type of attorney that you hire. Can you give me an example of, or the difference between hourly versus flat rate, and how to make the decision as a business owner to how you should be engaging your attorney?
Well, I think the first question you have to ask yourself is, how concerned are you about cost? Because for some people, the difference between, say, $2,000 and $3,000 in hiring an attorney is a very big deal. For other people, they say, you know what? That's another, say, 2 hours. Get it right. I'm not going to sweat it. And then that at times permeates the entirety of a relationship, because something you and I have talked about is when you're the client, when you're a business owner, every time you call, you feel a little bit of pain, as they would say in behavioral economics, right? You're paying for that phone call every time you pick up the phone. But if you were to, say, have a flat rate for a particular project, or, if you have a monthly retainer that even may be trued up at the end of a month or a quarter or whatever, you've already paid for that phone call, or you're going to pay for that phone call as part of your agreement. And as a result, you don't feel that pain, and you're more likely to call and either ask a question about something that's troubling you, or something, again, that you heard maybe someone else in the industry I'd heard, maybe something you read in the news, whatever it might be, you're just more likely to call. And you're more likely to call for 5 or 10 minutes. And that could save you from a world of hurt. And you didn't say, oh my God, that's $90. I can't believe I just spent 10 minutes with this guy and he's costing me $90 or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that makes sense as a business person. And we're attorneys, we own our own firms as well. We're business people too. So we're sympathetic.
So when you're a business that does a lot of contract volume, when does it make sense, since we're on the topic of cost for your legal team, to potentially bring a paralegal on to handle some of the more routine tasks?
I'm going to circle back to something that we talked about, and that is, in many ways, there are times when if you think AI might solve something, that's probably something for a paralegal to do. Because you need someone who's smart, who's dedicated, who knows how to manage a schedule very, very well, and will make sure things get done on time.
Mm-hmm.
Paralegals are great at that. And they still, because of their paralegal training, have a sense of what some of the legal issues might be. I also think that paralegals are good for scheduling when you are in certain industries as well. Again, a very heavy IP portfolio. While your IP attorney is maintaining the schedule and when you have to renew things or when, say, a patent might expire, managing that well internally, I should say, is it's worth it. It's not going to cost you a whole hell of a lot, but the difference between having it and not having it could be extraordinarily costly.
What size do you need to be at as a company for it to make financial sense?
You know what? I would read my legal bill. And again, not necessarily for the amount, but what the tasks are. It's not necessarily about size. If certain things are repetitive, if things are filed, say, with the government, whether, again, it be real estate, where you have your deeds and you have your assignments and so on and so forth, where they get filed with the government, that may be a time when you need one regardless of how big your business is. And you can hire a fractional paralegal as well. You don't need to have one full time.
So I didn't even know that was an option to hire a fractional paralegal. What is the process to even go out and find one? What does something like that look like in terms of cost?
It's funny. For starters, I think you should have faith in your attorney that he or she will put you in the right direction to find one, and trust that person. Okay. But if you're going to do it yourself, and quite frankly, spend 10 minutes on Google. Just see what's out there. Get a feel for what there is. And again, if you're a real estate company, feel free to add real estate paralegal to your search to get just a sense of what it is. And then maybe ask me and say, hey, David, what are you thinking? What do you think would be a fair hourly rate? Or again, say buying 10 hours, what would be a fair rate for 10 hours worth of work? Again, if you can't trust me to answer that question, I don't think you should really trust me with most of anything.
Yeah. It's funny because I didn't even realize, I thought a paralegal had to work at a law firm. I didn't realize a paralegal could be an independent contractor that you can hire.
I didn't know that for a long time either. So don't feel so bad. It just turned out someone I know who happens to be a divorce attorney said, you know what? I have all these documents I need to get to the other side about all these financial statements and whatnot. And I just brought in somebody for 5 or 10 hours to help me. I said, wow. Oh crap, I didn't know you could do that. And so that's how I learned.
Very, very cool. Let's switch gears a little bit. And by the way, thank you for that, because I think those are some knowledge bombs that our audience will absolutely love, such as being able to hire a paralegal and make sure you have the proper disclosures around AI in your contracts, because that is happening. And if you're not using AI in your business, look out, you're going to run into some trouble, because I use it in my business all the time and it is helping us grow. Let's talk a little bit more about some cost saving strategies from a legal standpoint that you have helped business owners implement into their business, things such as cost segregation or energy procurement, to save them money.
So it starts with, I think your client expects you to know a lot beyond the law. And That doesn't mean you need to know the entire history of the Roman Empire. Okay. But it means that you should understand, say, basic things about real estate. And what's great is that, say you have a manufacturer who owns a building and you say, oh, by the way, have you thought about this? And, just talk to your accountant. Have you thought about cost segregation? Because this might save you a lot of money, and you can have someone do a report for nothing, right? And then if your accountant says it's a good idea, your building's been fully depreciated, whatever it might be, then it turns out to be nothing. But lo and behold, if on the other hand, this person can spend, say, $15,000 on a report and save themselves $150,000 on their taxes, number one, they will love you, right?
Yes.
In every business, there's nothing better than the person you pay actually returning money to you somehow, whether it be taking 10% off a bill, or you know what, you sell pencils, my friend Bill buys pencils, you should talk to Bill, or in this case that. So you're expected to know things, and again, it's common sense. With energy, I realized that I was reading an article one day, and really was on my phone in bed, so I can't even take credit for anything other than I couldn't fall asleep. And it was about how energy prices for part of the grid are going to go up 6 to 9-fold. And I said to myself, holy crap, that's a lot of money. And then I read which part of the grid it is, and it's basically 13 states and DC, including Illinois. So I said, oh my God, my clients need to know this. And especially because Illinois is a deregulated state, you really ought to have people just competing for your business, because what the hell is going to happen? And it's better for you just to know this and plan for it. I can't save you any money, right? I'm not going to negotiate your energy bill. I don't know squat about FERC and energy law. But what I do know is you need to call somebody. And people appreciate that, because many, many attorneys can do a great job negotiating a contract, buying or selling a building. That makes you different. That makes you someone who people want to hire, because you're more than just, right? You're like a VAR. Think of it that way. Or you're a value-added seller, not necessarily reselling. You're a value-added seller.
So I want to come back to energy, because funnily enough, I just read something, and I think it might have been in Bloomberg, about energy costs going up in specific states like tenfold, and they held off, and it'll be sometime in 2025 when that happens. I want to come back.
That's the article that I read. So you and I are in the same boat on that.
Let's talk about cost segregation, how to capitalize on it, and what the process is for those who are property owners and business owners.
Well, facetiously, the way you capitalize on it is really calling my friend Kevin and then him take care of it. All right. But that being said, really it is a matter of talking to your accountant and finding out how much have you depreciated from your building already. Finding out whether you have segregated the real property from the personal property on your taxes. Knowing when a property was acquired, because, and this is not necessarily a legal term, but there is super duper depreciation for buildings that were acquired between 2018 and 2022. And then 2023, it's at 80%. This year, it's 60%. I'm sure our viewers can figure out what's going on in the next couple of years with those tidbits of information. But again, it's just knowing that you have to ask the question. And a sophisticated real estate person like you already knows what it is. So in many ways, it is talking to your manufacturing client, or even saying your property management clients, whether they be in hotel or multifamily. Have you talked to your clients about this? Here's a chance for you to look good. And it won't even necessarily inure to my benefit, but here's a chance for you to look good to your clients. That, to me, that's the right way to introduce the conversation in a couple of different ways.
And cost segregation, for the audience, it's accelerated depreciation on the real estate assets that you own that are commercial real estate assets, because everything has a life, from the carpet to the doors to the lighting. And there's a calculation, a government calculation, for the lifeline of each one of those items in your building. You cannot depreciate land, as we all know, but you can accelerate the depreciation of the physical structure and all the elements of the physical structure, which would create a very substantial tax write-off that you can use to offset your income. And if you don't use all of it, you can carry it forward. David, is there a limit to how long you can carry it forward?
I do not know. That's another Kevin question.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to get Kevin on here. We're going to have to talk about cost segregation.
We can make that happen. That Kevin's a great guy. You'll love him.
So the energy procurement, let's talk about that. So we all read this, or I'm not going to say we, more so, because I don't.
The royal we, you and me.
The royal we, but it was frightening to read it. And how do businesses position themselves to deal with potential issues like that coming up? Because if energy cost goes up 6 to 10x in some markets, that'll kill businesses. That's more than their profit margins.
So we are not going to talk about politics, what I'm about to say, but there's a very interesting dichotomy going on. And that is, surprisingly, more blue states have deregulated energy than red states. I don't know why. I really, really don't. But be that as it may, if you're in a blue state, assume that you can actually have energy companies compete for your business. Okay. And then, and this is true for energy, but many other things, regardless of whether it's, whatever it might be, in the last 20 years, reverse auctions have become very popular for procurement.
Reverse auctions?
Yes. So in a normal auction, right, whatever goes to the highest bidder, $10, $12, whatever. In a reverse auction, you say, all right, I need to buy pencils. And then the first pencil seller comes in and says, I will do it for 20 cents a pencil. And then a second company will come in and say, I will do it for 18 cents a pencil. So it drives the price down because those companies want to get the business. So they will compete downward, which is therefore the reverse. And so actually, as a general proposition, I think companies ought to consider reverse auctions for a wide variety of things in their business, not exclusively energy. So I just before we go on, that's, again, I think it's just a good business idea, and it may not help you at all. It may, who knows? But it's smart just to check. And then from there, for this one, you hand over your energy bills for the last year or two. You hand them to the energy broker. They analyze it and they tell you what's going on, and they'll tell you the same scary stuff. Prices are going up no matter what. We're just helping you mitigate it. And a lot of them will say, you're not paying for it, when in reality, you are not paying out of pocket up front, but you'll pay for the energy, and then a little piece will be added on every month to pay for the energy broker. So you don't necessarily feel it. And a good energy broker will actually make sure you're saving money versus having you not save money and then pay them for providing the service that did nothing for you.
So to our audience, take a look at what is happening with your energy rates. And you said an energy broker is someone who could potentially add value to you in the next coming year to make sure that you're getting the best rates you possibly can on your energy cost.
And only because I plugged my friend Kevin, I will plug my friend Eric as well. His company is Transparent Edge. And I learned quite a bit from them because they engage in the reverse auction process. But there are many other companies who do it. There are many other companies who do it just as good of a job as they do. But it just makes sense. Again, 5-10 minutes on Google, you can see what's out there and then decide if that's what you want to do.
That makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about strategies that you have for our audience of business owners and entrepreneurs from the asset protection standpoint, and strategies that are legal strategies that can help them improve their operations.
So before we talk about operations, I actually want to talk about the most important thing in people's lives, and that's family. Okay. And a giant mistake that I see all the time is that people's trust and estate documents are not consistent with their corporate documents.
So wait, hold on. You're saying that your trust and estate documents need to be consistent with your corporate documents?
Yes.
Why?
So your corporate document might say ownership of this company will transfer to X, whereas your estate documents might say when I die, X, Y, and Z each get a third. That's a real problem. Or your company may be run by person X, so that person has a fiduciary duty to the company. And if you name that person as trustee over, say, the stock over the company, then the fiduciary duty you have as a trustee is very, very different. So one is to maximize return to the shareholder. One is to maximize what each beneficiary can get. And they're two very different hats. So I really, really encourage people, take 15 minutes to check. You don't need to pay me necessarily to do that. I prefer you pay me, but you don't have to pay me to do that. But just check, get peace of mind on that. So that's first and foremost. From, again, your family is your most important asset in life. You love your family. And so I really want to start with that.
So let's stay with that, because what if we're talking to, or one of our audience members doesn't have anything in place for if something were to happen with their company, what do they need to put in place to protect their family?
Well, trust and estate planning is something that everybody should have, especially with kids under the age of 18. Mm-hmm. And I work with trust and estate planners because, again, I don't specialize in it. I give that to someone else to do. So my best advice, again, is to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing, not me, or to ask me who knows what the hell they're doing and get to the right person. Okay. From there, they need a good corporate attorney to understand what's in their operating agreement or shareholder agreement or bylaws, whatever it might be, just to make sure that what happens if you are dead, disabled, divorced, what happens? You know, one of the rules I get to say to people, and I don't get to say it in all contexts, mind you, but you don't go into business with your business partner's spouse.
That's very true.
Right? And so you need to know what happens if, heaven forbid, something happens to your business partner. And again, it's intuitive, but it's death, divorce, disability, the 3 Ds. Nobody wants to think about them. They're bad. They're very, very bad. Mm-hmm. You pay me more than just to protect you. You pay me to bring up these things that you just don't want to think about. And I think that's part of what a good consultant does. And I am a legal consultant, but I'm sure a business process consultant needs to ask, well, what happens if that machine blows up? Right? Or everything runs through Jenny. What happens if Jenny gets hit by a truck? What are you going to do then? It's, again, what a good consultant does in their area.
So if we're talking about putting together the perfect legal team, are there specific legal duties, or I guess in segments of the legal business, that you as the owner need to have at least in your Rolodex that you can call them if you have an issue?
Well, I think it's good to have someone who is a business attorney, an outside general counsel like myself, because I can handle the core issues, mm-hmm. and I know how to spot the other issues. Mm-hmm. And I will wind up having a very good relationship with the business owner. Mm-hmm. And I think having that personal relationship, again, you don't have to be buddy-buddy, but that personal level of trust, I have found to be very effective. So then when someone has a situation with, say, immigration, and I'm able to send them to an immigration attorney, but what I will also say is, there are certain payroll type services or other services that have an outsourced HR component to it, where they know how to do it. And since you're getting your payroll done already, maybe you ought to consider this type of service so they can help with an immigration attorney or many labor and employment issues. So you don't even need an attorney. So your team really is, your legal team is unfortunately more than just your attorneys. But when it comes to the attorneys themselves, you really need someone who's a quarterback. That's most important.
That makes a lot of sense. So talk to me now about protecting your assets.
Okay, we're going back to that, certainly.
We're going back to that.
Yes. So some things are elemental. Again, like you own a building and you own a business. Put the building in an LLC, put the business in a separate LLC. So when someone slips and falls in front of the building, they can't take your business, right? That's a very simple thing that really any corporate attorney should tell you, that you need to do that. And likewise, if you own 5 properties, you may want to have 5 LLCs and each has a property, or you may just have 2 in one, 3 in the other, but at least there's no cross contamination.
Understood.
If you are making a lot of money, my advice to you is actually talk with an accountant about asset protection, and then talk to the accountant about an attorney who they work with who specializes in asset protection. There are certain things that happen in the law all the time in a couple of states. Not surprisingly, Delaware has some sort of asset protection trust to try to protect you. But again, talk with someone who really knows what they're doing, and have a team. You trust your accountant for a reason. Ask them for advice in addition to asking me if I know someone. That's great. In fact, getting 2 names is even better than getting 1 name. Then you'll feel who you feel most comfortable with, making sure you don't lose $10 million because you did the wrong thing.
Okay. So now you've given us some really good takeaways and little snippets on the things that we can do to improve our legal structure as business owners. Now, give me some insights onto some trends, and really post-pandemic trends, that you've seen in the legal field that we need to be aware of as business owners.
Well, certainly post-pandemic, everybody has been rereading their leases and seeing when their leases come up to figure out what the heck they can do if something happens. And we've all heard stories about people who couldn't pay their lease, who tried to get out of their lease, so on and so forth. So that trend continues since 2020. And I think more people are actually hiring attorneys, the right attorneys, to negotiate their leases in a way they didn't 5 years ago. One of the major trends that's also a real estate trend is there are many loans that are coming due in 2025 and 2026. And there's this talk about all these big office properties that are, again, have their loans coming due. And everybody is reading all of their loan documents, everything from the loan and security agreement to the intercreditor agreement, whether there's mezz debt, whether there's PIK interest in something, and oh my God, 3 years later, after that PIK, I owe $160 million, say for example, on this $100 million loan. So that's a trend that I'm definitely seeing, and those are 2 in the real estate world. In the intellectual property world, I am definitely seeing more people realize that they actually have intellectual property, and they're also worried about what people are scraping for free off of their website, because there's nothing you can do about it. If something's out there publicly and free, they can get it, right? No matter what your terms of use are on your website, you're making it free. And whether it be LinkedIn or whomever trying to figure out about your company, they're going to use it. Another trend that I'm seeing in the corporate world is because the price of debt is going up, I'm seeing more seller notes than I did 2 years ago, where the owner, in order to sell his or her business, is saying, you know what, you can't go to the bank and get a loan, out of this $1 million purchase price, if you can just give me a little bit more upfront, and I will take more debt that will be paid over the next couple of years. I will take that because I just want to be out. And I think that is a trend that people need to pay attention to who are interested in selling their businesses. They may have to do that, especially if they're not selling to a private equity firm who has better access to bank debt.
Gotcha. Those are some things that are now on my radar that absolutely were not on my radar, and incredibly helpful, I know, for our audience of listeners. Now, we're going to do the lightning round, or the rapid fire section.
I feel like I'm on a game show.
Questions. I know. You ready?
Yes.
And then I'll tell you the prize that you win at the end.
I can't wait.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
It is a zombie apocalypse and you have to get out of your home and protect your family. What is your weapon of choice?
The pen. It is mightier than the sword. I can get help somehow with it.
You could make a big poster. Help me. What is one of your favorites or a book that you would recommend for business owners that as a must read?
So the book I'm reading right now, I recommend, the name of it is Optimum Illusions. And it's about what the optimal answer or solution is may not actually be the optimal solution when you look at all the factors. And you know what? Sometimes seeking optimization, you lose quite a bit in the process. So don't be so crazy about optimizing. The very, very good should not be the enemy of the perfect.
I love it. Dead or alive, if you had the opportunity to have dinner with anyone this evening, who would it be and why?
My daughter, who is living in Israel right now. I miss her. I'm not going to lie.
That's awesome.
She has me in the palm of her hand.
I love it. Give us 3 money-saving tactics for 2025.
Well, on a personal note, pick something that you hate about yourself, that you may say, you may curse a lot, have the F jar, whatever it is, it might be. Secondly is similar to that, and that is whenever you have an idea, and need not necessarily be about cost saving, write it down. It down. My wife has a not so nice way of talking about the pad that I should carry around. So I'll just say for you, we'll call it the cost savings pad. And the third thing is about saving. Credit card processing continues to go down. And so I know that it is warm to your heart as I say that, but payment processing has become so extraordinarily competitive. Again, ask.
An audience, so you know, that was not a plug that I asked him to make either. That is
not at all.
From the horse's mouth, as they say. And the last question for you is, what is the biggest obstacle that you have had to overcome to build the success that you have today in your business?
Time management. It is very easy to either go down the rabbit hole on an idea. I'm a huge Notre Dame football fan, so it's easy to take half an hour a day, seeing what's going on with recruiting and who's injured for the next game. It's very easy to do that. And what's going to happen is it's going to hurt your business, because at the end of the day, I'm going to want to be with my family, right? And I don't want to carve into that time. So I've had to figure out how to still enjoy my family, read a book when I have a couple of minutes, get all my work done, and then spend time with my son, who's a senior in high school, and my absolutely wonderful wife. Because if I don't pay attention to her, then I have much bigger problems than what's going on with my law firm.
There we go. David, thank you so much. Tell the audience where they can connect with you if they want to reach out.
Well, thank you. First, I want to thank you again, though, because this was great. And I'm very happy to do this again. Again, I'll give you Kevin's information, whatever it might be. Okay, I'd be very happy to do this again. You can reach me at seidmanlawgroup.com or www.seidmanlawgroup.com. If you want to read more insights that I have about whatever floats my interest at that moment in time, there's a blog there. Or you reach me on my cell phone, because like you and every other business owner, the cell phone is everything. And my number is 312-399-7390. I share it because I only share it with people who I like. I trust you, Jared, which means I trust the people who are listening. And you have to give it whether you like it or not. So yet again, I can't fight the river. I'm just handing it out.
David Seidman, thank you for joining us on 0 to 100.
My pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to 0 to 100 podcast. We hope you feel inspired and ready to accelerate your business. Remember, your journey to success starts with a single step. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for greatness. For more resources and show notes, visit jaredguyrandolph.com. We'll see you next time.